Is the death of St. Peter in Rome the image of the final martyrdom that the papacy will live? There exists a text at the end of the Gospel according to St. John in chapter 21, which is quite mysterious, namely that Jesus addresses Peter. He asks him 3 times if he loves him, and Peter protests, saying that he loves him. Then Jesus gives a prophecy concerning Peter. He said to him, "When you were young, you put your belt on yourself, and you went where you wanted to. When you get old, someone else will put on your belt and will then take you where you don't want to go." He indicated, thus commands John, by what kind of death Peter was to glorify God. Then he said to him, "Follow me." We know by tradition how the death of Peter occurred. First, when he was a young apostle, he was gifted with graces in such an extraordinary way that, passing through the streets, his shadow simply will heal the sick. The prison's doors flung open before him. It was an extraordinary joy, and probably a glory too. And then, as time passed, the graces or charisms would have slowly dried up. He himself had sunk a little into his ministry. He got so used to this great power he had, and finally agreed to go up to Rome with Paul to become bishop of the church that was born there. The prince of the apostles had to be in Rome, and it was from this moment that the Holy Spirit had removed all his graces that he had possessed, and again he became a man again without special powers. There came a persecution on Rome, a persecution because of a fire, perhaps criminal or otherwise, and Nero the Emperor had been accused of provoking it. He then blamed the Christians, and Christians were persecuted, as a result martyred in Roman circuses. Peter wanted to save his life. He had disguised himself as a beggar and went out along a street in Rome in the hope of saving his life, crossed the path of Jesus on the way back to Rome, and then a deep dialogue is told. Is there a legend? We don't know for sure. Quo Vadis Domine, said Peter to Jesus, "Where are you going, Lord?" And Jesus answered him, "I am going to Rome and to die in your place." Ashamed and repentant, Peter immediately returned to Rome. He was arrested sometime later, denounced as the prince of this church, and then sentenced to death. He, having betrayed Jesus, remembered all that he had done in his life, his unworthiness, and therefore he humbly asked the Roman soldiers who crucified him not to crucify him like Jesus, but rather upside down, because he was unworthy and it was accepted. Hence this upside down cross, which is the cross not of Satan but the cross of St. Peter, while St. Andrew was crucified on an X, hence the cross of St. Andrew. Obviously, we guess that this story of Peter is a prophecy, the prophecy of the image of what the papacy is living and what will live throughout its history. When the church had been young, she was invested with such power until around the 16th century, perhaps, that she could bring down kings by simple excommunication. The Pope put on his belt and went where he wanted to. Within Christianity, he was the representative of God on earth, and then at some point, God removed this power one by one in order to teach the Pope humility. There had been the French Revolution, it is certain, where Pope Pius VII had been deported by Napoleon. Then there is the loss of the Vatican States in 1870, where the Pope finds himself a prisoner in his state, in his little city, and suddenly begins to take care of his true function again, to produce theological documents. And then there is the 20th century, when Western Christianity indulged in sins so serious that the reflection is inferred among the popes. This evangelization, what had this been for? What had she to give? Led by his sufferings, the papacy became more and more humble and more modest in this function while exercising it. Catholic prophecies announced that this persecution would increase, and at the end of the day, Peter, that means the papacy, will bear witness to God by a final martyrdom, a disappearance, will it be a bloody sacrifice? Will it be a disappearance? Because they have become fewer, Christians will no longer be able to elect popes. We do not know. But in any case, led by the Holy Spirit, the death of the papacy towards the end of the world will resemble that of Saint Peter. The Pope will go towards something he will not want to, but he will learn humility on the way. And this is how in the ministerial external priesthood we will see this humility shine in the Catholic Church. Regarding this final test of the Church, we must look at the Catechism of the Catholic Church at number 675. We have there in 3 paragraphs everything we need to understand.